Carnivortex, the Carnivortex. How did I get sucked into this Carnivortex? The Carnivortex, the Carnivortex. How did I get sucked into this Carnivortex? Beef, butter, bacon, eggs, eat fatty meat. Sounds great! The Carnivortex, the Carnivortex. How did I get sucked into this Carnivortex? The Carnivortex, the Carnivortex. Just give it a shot and you'll be carnivore next.
Hi,
Hello.
everyone. Welcome to the Carnivortex, the show where we look into the deep recesses of Barb's mind, which may or may not be very deep, depending on the day. But I am NoCarbBarb, and I, along with the HighFatCats, who are my managers, producers, and editors, are bringing you another episode of the Carnivortex. And today we have a very special guest, none other than Jenny Mitich.
Hello, hello.
Ooh, Jenny's in the house. Jenny, for those who may not know you, will you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on the Carnivortex. Very excited to see what we come up with. So I've been carnivore for almost 3 years. I started December 2022, and I've lost almost 50 pounds using a carnivore diet. I have twins. They are Max and Harry, and they're going to be 4 in November. And I also have a YouTube channel. I do carnivore educational content. I have a podcast called Meat Matters with Jenny Mitich, where I interview experts. You were on my podcast. It was an awesome interview. And in general, I'm just very curious. I love learning, and I'm trying to navigate life as a 41-year-old woman with a family and carnivore, and I have Hashimoto's and just trying to figure that out. And I try to share all of that with the people that watch my channel.
And I understand you have a book coming out.
I do, soon to be a published author. It's called Complete Carnivore. It is a complete in-depth guide to the carnivore diet, plus 80 carnivore recipes. I endeavored to write like the encyclopedia of the carnivore diet, so anybody at any point in their journey can use this book. There's a troubleshooting chapter. There's an entire chapter on monitoring your progress, because I love doing like N-of-1 experiments and blood work and things like that. So I show people how to go about doing that and taking charge of their own metabolic health. And then the recipes I've taken from my YouTube channel and just other things that my husband and I have developed to give some variety to carnivore. Because for some people, just eating beef, butter, bacon, and eggs gets a bit boring and they want to mix it up. I personally love BBB&E, but some people need a little bit more variety. So I wanted to make sure people had that too. So yeah, it comes out November 4th. Pre-orders are now available. And I'm very, very excited to hold it in my hands, because I've worked very hard on it.
So I have pre-ordered my copy,
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
am looking forward to getting it signed by you at Hack Your Health. You're having a book signing there?
Correct, yes. So I think on the first day in the morning, so I'm doing a cooking demo and a book signing. And yeah, I'll have some available for purchase, but also if you're coming, be sure to bring your copy and I will definitely sign it for you.
Well, and this question is probably too soon since this one is not published yet, but you said it was going to be like the Encyclopedia of Carnivore. For anyone old enough to remember encyclopedias, is this going to be like the Encyclopedia Britannica, where there are multiple issues? I'm going to have volumes like volume 1,
Yeah.
volume 2.
I had a set of encyclopedias. I loved them. I was always in them. Yeah, I would love that. I don't think like the very first one is really in depth with like how to get started, a gradual carb reduction guide, troubleshooting chapter, myths and FAQs and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know that I would do that part again, because it's very thorough in the first one, but I would like to do subsequent cookbooks. I already have like maybe 200 more recipes that I could include. So that's at least 2 or 3 more cookbooks. So we'll see what happens. That's kind of up to the publisher if they would like to continue working with me.
Well, I would push for some more content on just your experiments and those results and leaky gut and Hashimoto's,
Yeah,
to kind of pair that along with the recipes, because I think that's a great resource for both
sure.
of those. So anyway, if I need to speak to your publisher, let me know. I'm sure they are going to take, in my opinion, extremely seriously.
I think so too. I think so too.
Okay, so the Carnivortex topic for today. Well, here, let me preface it just a little bit. In today's world of artificial intelligence, where you can literally query anything you want to, make images do anything you want them to do. For all you know, I'm a robot right here. Somebody would probably have done a better job on that. But anyway, so AI is the thing. So today, what I want to talk about, instead of artificial intelligence, I want to talk about genuine stupidity.
All right.
Kind of the opposite of that, and just really unpack what the heck is genuine stupidity and what are we doing today? So I'm just going to throw that out. Just what do you think genuine stupidity is?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking about this. So when I think of stupidity, I think of like just not having accurate information and not making good choices because you don't have good info. It makes me think back to when I was young and dumb and I just ate and drank whatever I wanted and thought that the food pyramid was the way we were supposed to eat.
Yeah,
Genuine stupidity.
genuine stupidity. Well, in a sense, though, is that genuine stupidity or could that be like genuine ignorance? So, in my mind, I guess ignorance is more not knowing the information. I mean,
Right,
you don't know what you don't know. And to me, like stupidity is more of, I don't know, maybe deliberately not wanting to know more information.
right. Yeah,
Maybe in the sense that, hey, this is what I think, and I'm not going to change my mind no matter what anybody else says. More of a closed-minded thing is kind of what I
yeah,
think of. I don't know what the official definition is. I think maybe just ignoring
yeah,
intelligence, ignoring discernment, that kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that because with ignorance, if you learn new information and you're open-minded, you can change and grow. Whereas with stupidity, you might have that information, but you are so boxed in, or maybe your paycheck depends on you believing a certain thing. And so you don't take any different opinions or facts or options out there. You just disregard it and you're just like, nope, blinders. I could agree with that differentiation between the two.
Yeah, but I think, and I'll speak for myself, I think a lot of times I'm genuinely stupid by accident.
Yeah.
It's just really easy to get set in my ways and think what I'm thinking and not consider other things. And then also, you know, not just consider, but really look at, hey, what impact do they have? Is my stance maybe not what it should be?
Right. Right.
But I think that's another part of being genuinely stupid is that we just have those blinders on and it's just, okay, we're right here. We're not looking at other things. So,
Yeah.
with that kind of a loose definition, what are some things that you think people are genuinely stupid about?
Oh God.
Yeah, I was
Everything.
going to say, what are people not genuinely stupid about? That might be an easier question.
There's just so much potential for it that I think you could be genuinely stupid about just about anything in your life. Family, how to raise kids, schooling, politics, medicine, food, time management. There's so many things, like, I don't know. I think it really boils down to the person. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think the options are endless and that we can be genuinely stupid in all different kinds of ways. Since we're in this carnivore text, just in the context of carnivore, how do you see this stupidity played out?
A couple of ways. I think the first one is when I run into people that are super dogmatic. The world is black and white. There's only one correct way to do carnivore, and if anybody else is doing it differently, they're wrong. And they shouldn't be calling themselves carnivore or they're whatever. I don't see that as often as I would like in the vegan world, I think, but it happens. It happens. Another one I think would be when you have tied your ship so tightly to a specific way of doing carnivore. Like, I will only eat red meat or like do ruminants. I only do high fat. I only do this. And then when new information comes in, you've defined your entire personality by it, so you really can't pivot. I think that is another instance that I've seen it in.
Yeah, and then that's a really interesting one because if people are in that camp and they can't pivot, then I think one of two things happens. Either they dig their heels deeper in, or now they have left the carnivore community, or they're not carnivore anymore. They're and make up another label to
Right.
put whatever it is they're doing under.
Or they're no longer serving their original purpose and they move from helping people to harming people.
Oh, that's an excellent point.
That can happen too. Having that inflexibility is not good. Not good.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. That makes me think of a recent video that you did about the sugar diet.
Mm,
That's a really interesting concept, and I think the originator of that concept has wavered on the way that they're talking about what they're doing. And so I think that something like that has the potential to harm people.
Well, when you're dealing with something as insidious as sugar, yes. And the originator of that, Cole Robinson, yeah, he's changed the way that you do the sugar diet like 4 times. So it's hard to keep on track with that. It can be dangerous. I think people that are trying the sugar diet that are coming with like type 2 diabetes, some kind of metabolic dysfunction, lipotoxicity, or anything like that, if they do the sugar diet, that could cause serious issues and harm. But I think a lot of the people that are trying sugar diet are younger bodybuilders doing that kind of stuff. But there's also repercussions. The stuff that I did when I was young, I wasn't doing the sugar diet, I was doing drugs and alcohol. But like I'm paying the consequences of that at 41. That stuff doesn't go away. I used to think it did. I used to think, oh, I'm healthy as a horse. And then the Hashimoto's came in and like all this other stuff, the mental health stuff that I didn't realize was stemming from a lot of that stuff. There's consequences. There's always consequences. It's something to think about, but that a lot of people, I'd say most people, don't really think too much past the short term.
No, and especially the younger generation. I know when I was young, many, many moons ago, it didn't occur to me. I was not thinking about, hey, how am I going to be in 20, 30, 40
Yeah,
years? What is that going to look like? So in that case, I'm going to put the young people, I'll give them a pass for the most part and put them in the kind of genuinely ignorant category
sure.
versus stupid because you just don't know and the life experience isn't there.
Right.
I'm thinking about that though. If you could go back in your 20s and change some things, what are some things that you think you would change? And I guess you're still young, so I guess you don't know everything, but if you knew a little
Sure.
bit, what would
Sure.
you
Yeah,
change?
I am a strong believer that I will not know everything even up until the day of my death. I'm constantly learning and changing, and I'll look back even at 6 months ago and be like, God, that was so stupid, blah, like I'm always doing that. But if I was to go back, I would probably go back to like my teens and I would change who I was spending time with. You're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I was spending a lot of time with people that I really shouldn't have been. And it's not like my parents' fault or anything like that. They were doing the best they could, but the friends I was hanging out with were getting into drugs and alcohol and things, and then that evolved into alcoholism and then heroin addiction for me. And that trajectory took me places that I never wanted to go or never thought I would. So yeah, I would change that in a heartbeat. But then I think, would I then be who I am today? You can't go back in time. We don't have the flux capacitor and the DeLorean to go back in time or anything like that. But I'm happy. I've learned a lot. It's made me into the person I am today. And I take that core with me everywhere I go. So it helps me help others.
So how long were you caught in that addiction?
I started drinking and smoking weed at 13, did cocaine for the first time at 16. Oxycontin and stuff was a big deal. Back in those days, the early 2000s, it was really like the big street drug. So we did that for a little bit recreationally, but then a friend of mine found heroin was much cheaper. So we started doing that, and I was like a full-blown heroin addict by 19. Went to 3 different rehabs. I got clean when I was like 25, 26. So I would say from like 13 to 26, it was drugs and alcohol, a lot. of
Yeah,
drugs.
13 years that,
Yeah,
and I just kudos to you
thank you.
to being free to speak about that. This is a hard topic and it's still happening. That's
Yes.
something I think as a society we have been genuinely stupid about. We just can't say no to drugs. We just can't.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, it just comes around. And I know part of it is people want to learn from them for themselves or
Sure.
experiment.
Curiosity.
But it's just always one of those things. You don't know if you're one of those people that takes that first drink, hit whatever, and you're hooked.
Yeah,
I really think that that addiction, you just don't know, and it's a huge risk.
sure.
So to share your story like this and potentially impact other young people, old people,
Yeah.
it's not just the younger generation. I
Um,
think it's all of us that it impacts. So thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome. It's important to share. I want people to know that there's hope out there. I'm 41. I've been clean off of heroin for almost 15 years, I think it is. So maybe I don't remember how, yeah, it's 15 years. But I'm a completely different person than I was back then. If you were to meet me back then, you wouldn't have liked me very much. I was a terrible person. But humans have this wonderful capacity for change and growth if you're willing to do the work. And it was hard. It was a lot of work, but I don't have cravings. I don't think about drugs at all. Like my life, I'm a complete straight edge now. Like my life is so wildly different. And I want people to realize that you don't have to have that. You're not going to be that for the rest of your life if you put in the work. You don't have to be. So, yeah.
well, what inspired you to make the change?
Oh, God, that's a big story. My best friend overdosed and died in my dad's basement.
Gosh.
And I ended up going to jail because of it, because I was in the car with him when he bought the drugs that killed him. And that made me an accessory. I spent 4 months in jail, not prison, just jail, awaiting a bond reduction hearing. And when I was in jail, I was like, what in the hell am I doing with my life? Why? Like, I wasn't using at the time, but like, why was I hanging out with a person that was? And why did I think this was totally normal to be in the car during a drug deal? I got out, fought the case. I ended up doing 2.5 years probation for involuntary manslaughter, but I had the potential of going to prison for the rest of my life for murder. It was a big deal.
Gosh.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. So when I got out of jail, I hit the ground running. I went back to school. I started volunteering at my grandma's church. I ended up working at the church first as the membership secretary and then as the director of youth development. And they all knew what was going on. They knew my story. They were very supportive. And I just completely changed my life. Completely changed my life. Ended up getting my bachelor's degree. I did a research study in Norway and Finland on their prison systems and how they do things different than America. And it was kind of a full circle moment for me because years before I had been sitting in a jail cell and then I was then studying it. Very interesting. So yeah, that I don't know that I would have changed my life if that hadn't have happened though. It was like a real light switch moment for me. So again, it's like I wouldn't go back and change it. I wish my friend was still alive, but he made his choices too. So yeah, wild stuff, man.
That is really wild.
Yeah.
So what did you end up getting your degree in?
My degree is in management and finance, double major, business, nothing related to nutrition or anything like that. I know it's so funny. I have a passion for management and like project management and things like that. I love starting a project and finishing it, whatever it is, bringing it to fruition. I became fascinated with nutrition and all of that kind of stuff in 2016. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast with Mark Sisson.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of us come to the keto-ish way of thinking from him. So I read all of his books, and that kind of started me down the rabbit hole. But I didn't try a ketogenic diet until carnivore, really, which was in 2022.
Wow, so 6 years you're studying the nutrition
Yeah.
and were you experimenting with some different things?
I mean, yes, but it was more of the biohacking type of stuff. Like I had gotten a Berkey water filter to get the fluoride out of my water starting in like 2015. That's probably my longest change that I've had. I was playing around with supplements. I played around with some essential oil stuff. a lot of mindset stuffs, but I didn't really adjust the food. Like I read about it, but it didn't sink in. I think maybe that was some of the genuine ignorance, there. It's like I knew that was the right way, but I still wasn't. Like when I wanted to lose weight, I would do really low fat and chicken breast and salads and no oil or anything like that. I would never imagine cooking with animal fats like I do now. Totally, totally different ball game. But yeah, but I had a primer. It was in there. I had the base of knowledge. So then when I came to carnivore later, I understood how it worked to a degree.
Yeah, well, that's a good point about how different carnivore is from those other ways of eating. However, those are the ones that are promoted. And that's what we're reading about. That's what we've taught to be healthy. And so again, it's like, are we really stupid or are we just very misled?
I feel like I think originally it was misled 100%, but I think it was misled based on faulty data and bad intentions on some key players, like, what's his name?
Oh, Ansel Keys.
Ansel Keys. Ansel Keys, the American Heart Association, and all those things had a vested interest in saturated fat being bad. Sugar industry wanted saturated fat to be the devil, not sugar. So things like that. And then but I think for the general public, they were misled. But now in 2025, with the advent of artificial intelligence, and we have access, we all have a supercomputer at our fingertips. We can literally look up whatever we want. And yes, the search engines and the ChatGPT and everything do still have kind of that low-fat Mediterranean plant-based style bent to things, but I can tell you, you can find a lot more information about animal-based lifestyles now. It's out there. Whereas before, like before the internet was so big, like you had to read a book or a magazine or just depend on something you saw on a morning news channel, It wasn't like you had so much information at your fingertips. So now I think some people are being genuinely stupid about it. Like they just are like, no, this is the only way I can eat. There's nothing else out there that could be working for people. And I would argue that the state of our metabolic health in the United States, which I think it's like 86% of people are metabolically unwell in some way. That's everybody basically. The low-fat plant-based experiment isn't working. We've been trying it for like 50 years and we're all fat and sick. So something needs to change. And at that point, I think that's when the genuine stupidity comes in, but influenced heavily by corporate demigods.
Yes, and also another thing occurs to me, it's like preceding stupidity is almost it's fear.
Yeah,
It's like, oh my goodness, if I change and do this and my cholesterol goes up and I'm afraid. I know that the data is out there and coming in that everything might be okay. And there's some great pioneers in the field. Love Dave Feldman, everything he's doing, lots of cardiologists putting the information out there. But because we've been taught to believe some things, and many of the doctors are still saying, hey, you don't need to eat like that. You're going to kill yourself, whatever. I think that fear keeps us locked in our way of thinking,
for sure.
even
Yeah.
when it's stupid.
Yeah, fear and comfort are two reasons why people don't want to change. We're humans. If something's working for us, we're gonna keep doing it. Even if something's not working for us, it takes a long time for us to recognize that. And I mean, like, oh, red meat is bad and all this stuff. A lot of these doctors that are pushing statins and things like that have profit motives as well. Statins are $1 trillion industry. So, of course, they're going to push them, especially when there's a biomarker that they lower. That's why LDL is demonized. It's not because it's a causal factor in heart disease. It's demonized because you can lower it with a pill.
Mhm.
Simple, but a lot of people don't realize that.
No, they don't. And change is scary. I mean, on many levels from, oh my gosh, I'm gonna, change my hair color to I'm gonna change my way of eating to change my belief. There's a lot of things, and I think you're right. We just want to be comfortable. I think sometimes we get up in the morning, it's like if this day could just be easy. It's like we're waiting for that. And I'm not sure that if it were really easy that we would be happy with that either. And we're humans, so we're going to be eternally dissatisfied, I'm afraid, just by our nature.
Yeah.
But going back to that in your story, and you had a catalyst for change, but what made you just hold on to that change? I can't even imagine how hard that would be of 13 years of an addiction and a completely different lifestyle. What kept you on the path toward ultimate, you know, health, not just
Yeah.
in a physical sense, but just in all other ways of everything you were doing with your life?
Yeah, so I think like the root of why I was doing drugs in the first place was mental health stuff. I was self-medicating. I had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety at 13. So that was how I was treating it, and it was never effective and it made it worse. Constantly made it worse with all the trauma experience throughout my addiction and stuff. So after the catalyst moment, being in jail is not fun. I was fine. I met some nice people and communicated with some people, and I made the best of it. I try to make the best of any situation, but that was a real scary moment for me that my life could have been completely taken away from me. It's either that or I would have died eventually from a heroin overdose. So I can't even explain. It was just this moment where I was just like, what in the hell am I doing with my life? And from there, I took that and that just stayed with me. I think it was just because it was such a jarring experience that it just shook me awake from whatever dream or nightmare I had been in. And then from there, I've always been the type of person, it's just in my personality. I work really hard to get what I want, regardless of what it is. It could be bad things, could be good things. So instead of it being bad things, I started working towards some different goals that I had always had, but I wasn't able to do because I had addiction. I'd always wanted to get a bachelor's degree, so I started going back to school. I'd always wanted to help other people, so I've found lots of different outlets for that. When I worked at the church, I worked with 6th through 12th graders, and we would go and do work camps every year where we would help lower income people fix up their houses. It was so much fun. That job was amazing. Like, I love all of those kids. They're like in their 20s now, but we still talk. Like, they're awesome. So I think for me, it's like I put my mind to something, I figure out what I need to do to get there, and I break it down into really small goals, and I just start whittling away at it. And I think that's a differentiating factor for me than a lot of people that I just see in the general public that just give up pretty quickly. I just keep going. And that's the only reason why I've done any of these things is tenacity, persistence, and patience, and curiosity. I am very curious. I've always been a curious kid. I've like learned how to read when I was like 2.5. I'm a voracious reader, always have been. So I think all of those things together with the jarring experience is what propelled me forward. Oh, that was a lot, but that's what it is, you know?
That well, and two, I mean, you mentioned that the people you were surrounded by had a huge influence. So how did that change? What did your circle of
Oh
friends and
gosh.
influence look like after you began to change your life?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is heroin addiction is very isolating. By the end of it, I wasn't really hanging out with anybody. I had lost all my friends. The friends that I had had younger, they were just drinking and smoking weed. Most of them didn't fall into heroin like me and my friend did. A few of us did, but most didn't. But I had burned those bridges, baby. Like, I didn't have those friends anymore. So when I got out of jail, I had nobody. I mean, I had my family. My family's very supportive, love my fam, but I just started from scratch. And for me now, I only spend time with people that I really focus on the content of their character. Are they good people? What are they doing with their lives? Like, I don't really hang out with anybody that's like drinking or smoking or like, my life is completely different now. Most of the people I'm hanging out with are trying to do something like to elevate in some way, making moves in some way. That's the people I like to spend time with now. But yeah, huge influence because if I was still spending time with a lot of those people, I wonder if I would still be partly in that world, you know?
Yeah. So did you meet Goran after you were on your journey of
Long
healing?
after, long after. We met in 2017 online, online match.com. Yeah. We weren't looking for love. We just went out on a date and we were just like, oh, we like each other. We have fun. And we started traveling together. We fell in love. We actually celebrate 8 years together this November. So,
Oh, that's a
yeah,
fantastic story.
yeah. Yeah,
He's a
it's
great
funny.
guy. I had the
He
privilege of
is.
meeting him at Meatstock, and he just seems to be awesome. And your boys are fabulous. And
Thank you. Yeah.
gosh, that's just so cool to see how things can turn around. And I think most everything outside of some terminal illness issues can be healed.
Sure.
People can change. And I guess that's the thing that is going to give us hope to move out of genuine stupidity. Let's bump over into ignorance and then branch out and go.
Yeah.
And I was thinking today with artificial intelligence, Chat GPT, you can put in all these prompts.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, you know what? There is no prompt that I could put in if there was a chat GST for genuine stupidity that would be any dumber than what I could have already put in. Like, what else could be dumber than what I'm thinking now? And when
Right.
I'm stuck in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in your healing journey, you talked about mental health issues. And I think I've heard you say before that prior to carnivore, you were on some antidepressants. Is that right?
I had been on them during the rehab years. And during my teen years, I dabbled in them. But I did have Xanax as needed for anxiety attacks up until carnivore. That was the only thing that I had that was left. And I couldn't imagine being without that. I didn't take it every day. I only took it a couple times a week, but my anxiety was so severe that I could be driving and a panic attack would just come on. And I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack, but it's debilitating. And I would just have to take half a Xanax. They were the lowest dose you could get. But yeah, I still had that as a crutch. But when I started carnivore, within that first 4 to 6 weeks, I didn't have anxiety anymore. I do not have that prescription anymore. I don't take anything for depression and anxiety. And I can't even remember the last time I had an anxiety attack now, which is great because they suck.
Yeah, that's my understanding. I don't know that I've ever officially had one, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can't imagine. So carnivore really brought you a lot of mental healing then.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And you know, the funniest thing is this year I've been trying to reincorporate some carbs as an experiment because so many people are like, oh, it'll help your thyroid. And when I do that, my mental health declines so quick. I get just kind of like a little bit down. Like I'm generally a very happy, like, let's go do things person. And when I'm doing that, when I'm eating, I mean, I'm like talking like fruits and vegetables and stuff, nothing too nefarious. I just don't feel great. So I have gone back to strict carnivore and it's amazing how quickly it goes back to being at my optimal baseline. It's insane. You would think, like, I can't believe that steaks and eggs and butter can help me live a thriving life mentally until you experience it for yourself. But having it for over half of my life, mental health issues, and now not, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I just think that the mental benefits of carnivore are the most amazing, and that people who have used metabolic therapies, whether it be carnivore or keto or whatever, to address all sorts of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, it is just mind-boggling to me that it's helping so many. And I just really, I wish that message could get out because I think that's almost harder for people to believe than, oh, I mean, they see people lose weight and yeah, maybe, okay, your joints don't hurt as much because you lost weight or whatever. I mean, they
Right.
just, those types of things, but really the mental side. And I've heard so many people say they would trade all of the other benefits just to have that. I know Carrie Mann, hey,
Yeah.
100-pound weight loss, he just put it aside, don't care. He doesn't have anxiety anymore and that kind of thing. I just, how do we break through? Someone is genuinely stupid or ignorant about that. How can we really get through to them, or can we?
I think yes, the potential is yes there. I think we can get through to them, but every person is going to be different. In marketing, they talk about how somebody has to hear something 7 times before they really hear it one time. So what I like to do, I think of myself as a lighthouse, not a tugboat. So if somebody doesn't want help, I'm not going to just be like bombarding them with stuff all the time because that's annoying. No one likes that. But if somebody is asking questions, I'll answer them. And then I like to plant seeds because you never know when those seeds are going to grow or when it's going to be harvested. But if you begin planting seeds with people and trying to steer them in the right direction so then they can figure it out for themselves, that's really helpful. But if you have somebody that's receptive, I would say give them change your mind. Was it Georgia Eads book?
Oh, change your diet, change your mind.
Change your diet, change your mind. I would give them that book. I would steer them to Metabolic Mind. Yeah, it's a great book. Wonderful. I would steer them to the Metabolic Mind YouTube channel. The mental health impacts of a carnivore diet are probably like the number one thing that I think it should be used for. There's people that have gone into full remission from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder that have healed their anorexia, which is one of the hardest mental health conditions to address. This isn't fake. This isn't fake news. This is like real. Lots of people. Lots of people. So if people can get over that hurdle of like all of the crap advice we've been given for decades on food and just give it a try. Give it a try for 30 days. Put your all into it and just see what happens. Because, what do you have to lose? If you're taking a bunch of medications, psych meds, and the side effects are terrible, or you're always anxious, or you're always depressed, no one wants to be that way. It's terrible. Just give it a shot. And I am pretty confident you're going to see some improvements quickly. For me, it was so quick. And for most people that I've talked to, it's very, very quickly. Just that lightening of your spirit comes within weeks to months.
Yeah, I would echo that. And not only that, I think it's daunting to some people to think, okay, well, I can do this for a week, but oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this forever. And how am I going to do that? And just to look at the short term, because I think that that's where fear comes in. We make things a lot bigger than they are. It's like, oh my gosh, the rest of my life, I'm never, ever, ever going to be able to have a cupcake or whatever it is.
Right,
you
right.
know, but to go, oh my gosh, if I could get up tomorrow and the sun is shining instead of everything being gloom and doom, just
Yeah.
things like that, shifting that mindset and looking at it that way, just bit by bit. But again, I think we're wired for easy and let's do it quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, easy and quick isn't going to get you results you want a lot of the time. Yeah, I totally feel that. I think that I get down to this, like, what's more important, the cupcake or your life? You can make a keto cupcake that's not full of sugar and full of crap that won't impact your blood sugar. You can have a damn cupcake. And once you get through some healing, you don't have to eat carnivore forever. You can do a therapeutic ketogenic diet that includes plenty of plant material. It's a thing. You might not be able to, you might be able to, but I think people really like, what's your priority? Do you want to live a healthy, thriving life, or do you just want to eat crap food? Like, let's be real. You want to be happy. You want to be able to spend time with your family and enjoy it and not have to be crippled by anxiety attacks. So I think once that mindset shift happens, that's really when the change can happen. But you got to flip that switch first. Otherwise, it's just you're going to be stuck forever. I've been there. It took me a very long time to get to where I am today, and thank God I'm still alive. But I'm lucky too. You don't have to go through that much pain. You can make the switch much more quickly than I did.
Yes, well, and something I appreciate a lot about your content, you are a carnivore creator. However, you're doing things, you went and sampled burgers from different places. There were peppers on the burgers, and it
Sure.
wasn't like, somebody didn't come and take you away and drag you out and beat you because,
I
oh
had
my
one
gosh.
commenter be like, quit calling it carnivore because the name of the series is The Traveling Carnivore. But I am not dogmatic about it. I have always talked about how once a month, Goran and I have a keto cheat meal in the beginning of carnivore where we would eat like Brussels sprouts, asparagus, whatever, a salad. I like a good salad. It wasn't the salad that got me to where I was. It was the sweet tarts and the lemon heads and the cookies and the Coca-Cola and all the processed sugary stuff. And I'm not one of those carnivore creators that's like all plants are evil, blah. I just don't believe that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just not that big of a deal. I'm happy, I'm healthy. I can have a little lettuce. It's not going to kill me. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't ever, when you're doing these experiments, and some of them are tough, like you've got Hashimoto's and to go do the sugar diet, or some of the other things that you've done, is it ever anxiety provoking to do those? Are you like concerned about, oh, what happens if I do
Right.
this and then something?
No, I so whenever I'm doing an N of one experiment, I'm generally very excited about it. I love the data. I love providing that data to people. And it's funny because every time I do one of those, I'm surprised by some of the data. I have a hypothesis at the beginning of each of them. This is what I think is going to happen. I do the experiment, get the data, and I'm like, oh, well, this happened, but then this happened. Why did that happen? And then it brings me down rabbit holes. So I wouldn't say anxiety. I'm more excited. The sugar diet one, I would never do again, just because the reason I did that one was because so many people were talking about it in the carnivore community that I felt it was my duty to try it and share it with people so that if somebody was thinking about trying it, they could see the data and be like, oh, okay. Because it was so hyped up for a while. I think that ship has sailed now. I think people have realized like that was just dumb. But yeah, most of the experiments I'm doing are not like that, where like that one really messed me up for like a month afterwards. It was not pleasant.
Yeah, well, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is what science is supposed to be. You had a hypothesis, you did an experiment,
Yeah.
and then your results, some of them were surprising. I
Yeah.
don't think everything lined up, and not just that, but in other experiments, and that some positive and some negative. And I
Sure.
think that that's really important because if we're genuinely stupid, our hypothesis really influences our results. It is our result. No, we
Well, you're
already know.
basically, you know what the result is going to be, so you write your hypothesis around the result. Whereas the way it's supposed to be done is you see something, you're like, I wonder what happens if I do this. You make the hypothesis and then you see what happens, and then you learn and shift and change your opinion and thoughts based on the actual data. That's how I like to do it. I've learned so much. That's just, it boils back down to dogmatism. I'm not here to just push carnivore like this. If something ever pops up that changes my thoughts on it, I'm going to share that with my audience. I'm not here just for carnivore. I'm here to learn, genuinely learn. And that's just the coolest thing about N of one experiments is you never know what's going to happen.
Well, and two, and talking about the dogma, so everybody go check out my episode on being catmatic versus dogmatic
I
and
love
actually
that.
what that means. Can kind of guess. And again, no shade to the dog lovers out there.
Of course.
It's just semantics. But yeah, I think that we can just get so stuck in everything that we're doing. So I'm just going to throw a question out here that doesn't have anything to do with genuine stupidity. I don't
I love
think
it.
it might. Now it could,
We'll see.
but okay, you've done lots of interviews. What is something that you wish someone had asked you?
That's a really good question, Barb. I don't know. I feel like people, every time I go on someone's podcast, they have really unique and good questions. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Barb. You've asked really good questions this time around.
Okay, well, let me flip that. What's a question you wish they had not asked? You ever had
Eh,
some of those?
no, no, because I'm an open book. I mean, like, I'm here to help people and to educate, and I feel like you need transparency in order to do that. I have I have yet to be asked a question that I wouldn't answer from like a podcast person. I'll have commenters ask some very personal things, height and weight or like, and I don't care. I share that stuff on my YouTube channel, but like, why are you asking me? Why is a random person asking that in a YouTube comment? I don't know. Weird stuff. So,
Yeah. Do you find that the majority of the comments that you receive are positive, though?
yeah. Yeah, the majority are. There's always trolls. That's unavoidable. especially when your channel gets higher in subscribers and views and stuff. I have a lot of filters on my YouTube channel though, where certain words won't even make it through. I will never even see those comments and they will not be up on my channel. I have a very robust filtering program, so I don't have to see a lot of that. But yeah, there's some crazies. There's always some crazies.
Yeah, that's excellent. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yes, it is. It is wonderful. I don't know that there's one for like Instagram or TikTok, or I've found that TikTok commenters, hello kitty, TikTok commenters are a lot more combative than my YouTube commenters, but I don't really post. I'm never on TikTok. Like I never scroll. I post whatever I'm posting on Instagram over there too, just because so many people are. But yeah, it's a wild ride. I'm used to the comments now though. I kind of just let it ride and ignore them, the bad ones. The good ones I answer. So
And I think it's wonderful that your authenticity shines through
thank you.
and your candor. And that's not always the case, especially in a more public position. And I think the more people can see who you are and really, when you're authentic, people are going to listen to what you have to say.
I think it's helpful. I
And
only listen to people that I feel like I really know them through the screen. And thankfully, when I've met these people in person, like at Meatstock, people that I've watched on YouTube, they were all like amazing. There was not one jerk. So I'm very happy that I was able to discern that from their content.
well, and two, that just makes me think, talking about being surrounded by people. I'm like, okay, at Meatstock, you're surrounded by the, I don't know, 250 best people that you know. I mean, isn't that just phenomenal?
Yeah, yeah, it was an amazing experience. I really can't wait for next year. Next year is going to be like even better.
That, so I hear you have a big role in next year's Meatstock.
Yeah, I'm going to be one of the hosts along with Dave Mack. I think Lauren hosting and Serena. So there's going to be, oh, and Melissa B from Australia. So there's going to be five of us because there's a lot going on.
There is. And just everybody in the whole world is going to be there that has anything to do with carnivore. And
Yeah,
Scott Everson has just done a phenomenal job of pulling people together and building that community.
yeah,
And yeah, I just would encourage everybody to go. I know tickets are on sale. There's a much bigger convention venue this year, and
yes,
get your tickets now. They're going to sell fast.
yeah,
And then already, I know he's working on 2027. So this is
always.
not something small that, hey, we're just going to get together and eat a few steaks and move on. This is a really life-changing event. I can say I met some people that are going to be my lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And you being one of them, awesome
Oh,
roommate.
same.
Woo!
Yeah, for
Uh,
those of you out there that didn't know, Barb and I were bunkmates at Meatstock, and she was one of the cooks, so she would always have to leave super early, and she was so quiet. I loved it. It was great.
yeah, and we
Best
had a
bunkie
wild,
ever.
yes, we had a wild storm in the middle of the night and
Nice.
had the window open, and that was all like
It was
crazy.
so hot in that room. We needed the window open, but then we almost died. So,
Yeah, exciting meat stock stories.
yeah.
Gosh. Well, Jenny, I just thank you so much for being willing to come on and talk about my
Yeah.
crazy topic. And I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but I think that's a really cool thing to talk about. And thank you again for sharing your story. That's hard, but I just can't imagine how many people that's going to impact in a positive way. So that it's just amazing. You're amazing. I just
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm really excited that you are moving forward with putting more content up because you're awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this show goes because I think it's a great concept. It was super fun. So, anyone out there watching, you need to be on Barb's show. It's really fun.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Until the next show.